Anyway, let's continue this and maybe wait a second until that ambulance is passed. Uh, and yes, in case you wonder, I had long fiber from this scarf in my eye, and because I've been trying to get that out, a small eyelash too. Man, that's a relief that we're going now. Anyway, I wanted to talk with you about what it is like to be in this sort of situation. We are biological organisms. I was blessed to have been born with a beautiful brain. I didn't do anything to deserve that, it just happened. It teaches me things. My awareness is only a very small part of this brain, and I've noticed, for example, that when I have something going on in my body, my brain tries to warn me. And you see that in other people too. When something is going wrong in the body, the brain can really start to panic, notably with lung diseases. People's attitude changes, their behavior changes, because the brain feels this as a threat to the organism, of course. And there's something similar going on when you get tossed out in the street. All of a sudden you have no more privacy. There is no place where you can relax, where you are really safe, where you are really on your own. Sometimes you can find a spot somewhere near a canal or something where you can sit, but you know what I mean. Think about it. You are on high alert 24/7 basically. You become the biological organism becomes highly vigilant, particularly in the beginning. I've noticed that too, because you don't know how people are going to respond. You read all these stories about politicians telling us what a problem we are and how dangerous we are. I mean, we're supposed to go through the metal detector. So we're basically portrayed as being potentially very dangerous people. And that's the response that you expect from people. That's the response I expected from people, that they were afraid of me or were worried for, I don't know what yeah, maybe wild parties or men showing up or whatever. I don't know. But that's what I was thinking at first. Also, at first, you have absolutely no idea what to do. There is a lot of fairy tale talk about all the places where you can go to that usually don't really exist in real life. It depends on where you are, granted. And what I did in the beginning was trying to sleep, standing up, and sometimes sitting as well. That means that you very quickly run up a lot of sleep deprivation. Sleep deprivation is a torture method, prolonged sleep deprivation. I didn't know that, but if you have prolonged sleep deprivation, you can start to hallucinate, you can actually start psychotic while you are actually perfectly fine normally. So this is caused by the circumstances. It does not mean that people have mental health problems. And of course, if you've been struggling for a while and are cold and grow hungry a lot, you can become really angry. Of course, because this shouldn't be happening. This is a violation of your human rights. Your human rights says that you should be housed properly. Let's face it. And what I'm noticing personally is that nutritional deprivation starts to play a role as well. I have had such aches from the beginning. I was lugging my suitcases around so many kilometers. I can't do that anymore. And very often at night, my body is aching. I sometimes just can't sleep because of the body aches. And I think that my muscles have been suffering a lot. And just a few days ago, actually, it was Action, and I'm running over. It was a commercial, an offer in the Action. That's a chain here in the Netherlands, like Poundland, basically. But it's a bit higher up, a bit more high end. No, yeah, well, never mind. About creatine, how do you say this in creatine, creatine monohydrate. And I had no idea what it was, and I looked into it. I thought, maybe I need that. I don't know. And I didn't want to use that offer because I didn't know whether it was going to do anything for me, and it was slightly more expensive than I wanted. $4.49 was too much for me at the time. And I found that one supermarket store has these tablets of dextrose and creatine, and I monohydrate, and I don't think that makes a difference in terms of speaking about it. But yeah, I've got a chemical. Yeah, never mind. And I started taking these, and I'm starting to notice a difference. And I read, well, I haven't actually gone on PubMed yet to check it out. I usually just go to PubMed and download a lot of stuff and read a lot of stuff, and then I decide whether something might be for me or not. And I did a quick search, and I read that creatine, yeah, I have to say Google search sucks these days. But anyway, one of the things that popped up was that it starts to kick in after 6 to 8 weeks. So the effect I'm noticing is probably not the creatine, but possibly the dextrose. It's probably helping me keep my sugar level, my blood sugar level, a little bit more stable. Maybe that's the effect that I've been having, that sometimes, yeah, I've been using a lot of energy, but not always replenishing that energy. Maybe it's that. Anyway, all these factors, me, for example, I'm next to a train track. I've lived next to a train station in the Netherlands, yes. So, and after a while, you don't notice these things anymore. But at night too, there are often very heavy trains that actually make the entire earth shake like crazy. And these things also are signals of potential danger to the body. We're a biological organism. We are not above animals. There are non-human animals and there are human animals. We're mammals. So we have all these responses too. That all these signals that come in, this is potentially dangerous. And when you're out like this, there are many of those signals coming in all the time, and it's much harder to feel safe. So you become much more vigilant, and because you're tired and or sleep deprived and or hungry or just frustrated, people yelling stuff at you. People have been yelling stuff at me, some. And yeah, one stood out on the bicycle. I think he was a UVA student. You start to behave the way you feel sometimes. That does not mean that you have mental health problems, that you're schizophrenic or whatever, because that is one of the stories that get told about why people are in this sort of situation. But that's usually not at all the case. These days, as you all know, arbeidsmigranten, as it's called, I think, here in the Netherlands, people get lured from Poland, Spain, Portugal, Italy, all sorts of places to come and work here, do the work that Dutch people don't want to do and feel above, like in meat packing industries. And they get exploited, basically. They get very little pay and they get stuffed into housing, stacked basically, like rabbits. And then they get tossed out onto the streets, and in most cases they're actually eligible for support but get denied support, and that's how they end up on the streets, totally powerless, frustrated, hungry, desperate. I've had people ask me for money, and they said, just 20 cents please, because they were just desperate and hungry. They weren't looking for drugs or alcohol. You can easily often spot this, what is really going on, at least I feel. And there are also people, of course, there are con artists. I see these begging gangs. I know them from England. These people sit there, they're not homeless. They're in England, they're bussed in every morning and bussed out every evening. They just sit there with these signs and so on. Those are not the people I'm talking about. And you see people indeed who are just, yeah, I don't know whether I should call them lazy or something. I mean, I'm walking around collecting cans and so on. Sometimes they have a lot of cans in front of them and just ignore them. They ask for food, man, and I'm like, the other day too. I said, "Are those yours?" He had a whole bag of cans there. I said, "Well, that's a lot of cans. You can buy quite a bit of food with that." And I don't quite know what the story is. I mean, obviously the big problem is not supporting quote unquote homelessness, but remedying it. The focus is too much, in my view, on supporting homelessness, on keeping homeless people homeless, while the focus should be on resolving their situation. And because the focus is so much on their quote unquote mental health problems, addiction problems, etc., and that means drugs or alcohol, not much gets done. Because if I have to admit first that I'm an alcoholic or a drug addict before I get help, support, financial support, I'm not going there. Or saying, "Hey, wait a minute, I have dementia, so that's why I'm on the street." I don't have dementia. So, no thanks, but no thanks. And then there's, of course, also the condition that you need to have long-lasting ties to the municipality that you're in very often. And a lot of people don't have that. It's complicated. It's far from the fairy tale caring, compassionate, etc., attitude from the government, from the authorities, than most people expect. It's not like that at all in many situations. People just get abandoned. And if you get abandoned and are living like this for a long time and get food deprived, sleep deprived, there's one guy here who can often barely still walk. He's probably just like me, waiting for his pension to become eligible for his pension payments. He's possibly very educated as well. He strikes me as, I don't know, different a little bit, but his body is just, he's physically totally exhausted, and he just sits there staring out of the window and so on. But he's got himself in control, but physically he's completely exhausted. He's depleted. His body is completely depleted. I don't know his story, but I see this and I wonder. And I've been wanting to ask for a while, haven't yet. I may do that in a while. It's just the housing shortages. Very often people land in this sort of situation because their marriage ended or their relationship ended and they got tossed out and there was no other place to move into. Very literally. And then if you try to keep working, it's very hard. Let's put it that way. It's very hard because you get muddy, you get soaked and so on. And somebody some time ago said I was absurdly optimistic, and what she meant was cheerful, not optimistic, because I don't think that I'm optimistic, that I was optimistic, but I mean, there's no point in talking myself into the gutter. I'm already in the gutter. So I have to do what I can to stay cheerful. In the morning, sometimes dark moods hit me when I wake up. And for me too, when I'm under tarps, initially, when it's raining, I can't get in or out because I get soaked and my stuff will get soaked. It depends. I'm starting to learn to deal with it a little bit better now. But I would sometimes be under these tarps for hours and hours and hours. And I would have these tarps just a few meters away from my nose. And if you're stuck like that for hours, you go crazy. It drives you crazy. I've been in here for 36 hours and so on. 24 hours, 36 has been the most, I think. And everyone has these situations that they're dealing with. In my case, it was having the tarps just a few centimeters away from my nose, which is just, it's like being buried alive. And I've changed that. I've created more space for myself so that I can stay under these tarps for hours and not go stir crazy. But that's what you have. It's impossible to imagine for people who haven't been in this sort of situation. I get that. But please try it. Please step out of your normal life and don't assume that people who are living in the streets essentially have the same life as you have. The situation is very, very, very different. And again, the fact that we're all biological organisms kicks in then. And this brain starts to do things that you don't always control. What I was going on about earlier about the brain, I noticed, for example, if something was going on in my body with a tendon. I had a tendon problem in my right arm, and my body does things like bump me into things just to alert me that there's something going on. Isn't that crazy? I was constantly bumping that elbow, and I didn't know that yet, but there was a developing problem in this arm, and the brain knows that. It gets all these signals from all these nerves, and it notices that way before it gets into our awareness. And I think that's amazing, but it makes you realize very much that we are just biological organisms. The awareness that we have is just a tiny part of our brains, and the other part of the brain we have almost no control over. Let's face it. So you have to forgive people for sometimes getting angry when they're in this sort of situation. And what I see politicians do is lash back with aggression. And I say, give them a warm bath feeling, a warm blanket feeling. Do the opposite, make people feel safe. Don't fight aggression with aggression, because it makes things worse. It creates a lot of fear too, on both sides. Give people a warm blanket feeling, make them feel supported.